Political correctness, in my judgment, is a manifestation of lack of self-esteem. When I grew up, I had an alpha male dad, superhero from the Second World War and the Korean War, who looked like, I mean, he had a 56-inch chest, a 30-inch waist, and he had 18-inch arms, and he'd never lifted weights. Okay? And all his buddies, if you will, from the Second World War and the Korean War looked more or less like him. And they allegedly, and in reality, they saved the generation from all
They
the
call
bad
that the
stuff.
greatest generation,
Correct,
right?
correct. And so I thought everybody was like that. When I went out into business and I made a lot of money, and then when I got thrown out of the company I founded, what was I going to do? And I thought, well, I'll go back and teach university. It's a long-winded answer to your question. And I taught university for $1, an honors class, and I was really dismayed. And so then I said, well, I'll coach the meatheads, the kids. And because I thought everybody had some sort of self-esteem. Now, when I was at Bear Stearns, almost everybody had self-esteem at some level, okay?
You in New York at the time,
Yeah,
Investors?
yeah.
What years was that?
Yeah, it was 77 through 81.
So you know Ace Greenberg.
Ace hired me. Cy Lewis hired me. Cy Lewis himself. And I was the most successful, non-Jew in the firm. And they always said that I was Sephardic, And they said, you got to be Jewish. And it's all right, don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. But they were pushy guys, I mean. And we weren't the white shoe guys, like the Goldman Sachs or those kind of guys. We were pushy guys that got shit done. And so, but there I was still surrounded with guys that had a lot of self-confidence and a lot of self-esteem. And so I was led to believe that self-esteem wasn't such a rare commodity or quantity, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. But in reality, we both know it is.
Yeah.
And self-confidence, self-esteem, etc. And so the world today is political correctness, back to your original question, is because we want people to like us. We want to fit in. We don't want to stand out. In a day when somebody will commit suicide on Facebook because they're disliked is beyond my comprehension. I can't understand it. I just don't. And why the parent of the kid that kills himself doesn't go kill his parents is beyond me. There's certain things worth dying for, and that's one of them in my judgment. And but it's getting worse and worse and worse.
To me, the whole thing started going wrong when they said everyone should get a fucking trophy.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
I don't think everyone should get a fucking trophy. I think there's winners, there's losers. It's a lot better to win than to lose. You want to lose with grace and win with grace, but not everyone gets a fucking trophy, right?
My kids, we pulled them out of group athletics just at the cusp of that when they started giving everybody a participation ribbon.
What the hell? I mean, it's the whole. I think, and listen, you have to always say, well, if I bash certain people, they're gonna cut off my social media because they run these platforms. But the fact is, I think a lot of this is like revenge of the nerds. So you're saying that you had this alpha male father, and you thought the world was like survival of the fittest based
Correct.
on physicality, and then what happened was, and also perseverance, and emotional fortitude. But somewhere, because of the digital age, it changed, and people that were the nerds growing up that were picked last on sports teams that didn't get the girl, they were able to sort of rise to the top financially, and they want to rewrite those rules now to make sure no one ever feels the pain they felt from being left out. This is my theory, by the way, part of it, of how it's gotten so out of whack. It's become survival of the unfittest because the people that are sort of setting the trend of the ability to control the flow of information were those people, and they want to make sure, and they want a just world is one where there are no people where physicality no longer matters. It only matters about what you maybe are performing intellectually or whatnot. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I just spoke at University of Pennsylvania, arguably one of the better schools in the country, maybe the world. When I tell the kids, how many kids in here consider themselves an alpha male? Nobody raises their hand. I said, but 98% of all high performers.
No.
Yes. Nobody raises their hand. Nobody. Zero. I ask the same question every fucking time. Nobody raises their hand. I've been at Oxford, University of Pennsylvania, University of Toronto, you name it, and nobody raises their hand.
Before you continue, do you know that Gillette commercial that they ran with the whole thing with the toxic masculinity
Correct.
thing. I fucking threw out my Gillette razor, and to this day, I never will use a Gillette razor again because that whole thing. It's like the brainwashing of it. It's just
It
I
is.
can't, and no one.
No. But we have a test on my website, and we have a 98.5% failure rate. One of the questions, the first or second question is, what would you do if somebody spit in your wife's face? Almost 100%. There's 5 answers, potential answers. And the most used answer is, I would try
Beat
to
the shit out of them. Is
Okay,
the only logical answer.
No. They say, I would try to ascertain his state of mind when he spit in her face. Nobody says, pick up a fucking pipe and beat him to death.
Right, basically.
Yeah. But nobody. When I would say nobody, I mean nobody. Nobody. So we have 98.5% fail the test. And I'm going up and down the aisles, ranting and raving. Don't you see
The
what's
problem
wrong
in
about
that, right? There's a problem
and
there.
the kids go,
oh no,
they don't.
Yeah, they're brainwashed.
yeah, they don't know. My judgment, they don't care anymore.
When do you think the brainwashing begins? How early do you think it begins?
Oh,
these
well,
days?
self-esteem is built the first 7 or 8 years of life. Like the Spartans used to take the kids away from their parents at 7 or 8 years. There was a reason for that. The Catholic Church, and I was raised a Catholic, and the Catholic has its hand up so far up my ass, I'm surprised you don't see the Pope coming out my lips. But I'm just a good Catholic altar boy
Right.
from many years ago. The Catholic Church says, you give us your children the first 7 or 8 years, and we will own them. That's part of the doctrine of the Catholic Church, because they know that's when self-esteem is built. Now, when a kid's 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months, unless he's shit his pants, they're happy. 2 years, 5 years, they're happy. 7 years, it starts to change because you are who helped to raise you. Who raises you? A mom, sometimes a dad if he's around, an older brother, sister, and a grandparent. What do they know about high performance? Nothing, normally, nothing. And if love and religion got the job done, we wouldn't have all the problems we've got. I mean, love doesn't get the job done, and even though I was raised a devout Catholic, Catholicism or Judaism or Allah or whoever doesn't get the job done. And so it starts at a very young age. And now it's promoted in the schools. And I asked the kids, how many have you been in a school fight, as we were discussing earlier, a schoolyard
Fist fight,
brawl?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
2, 3 kids raised their hand out of 400. Now, I give these talks at the schools for free.
They didn't go to my school.
Okay.
I go
I know.
in Queens, New York.
I'm from East LA. I'm from the barrio, not too far from here. And how many of you ever been spanked? 20, 30, 40 kids raise their hand. How many of you have ever been yelled at? 50 people out of 400 raise their hand. And so now it's socially unacceptable to whack your kids. I was raised, spare the rod, spoil the child. Now, I'm not saying all the beatings I got from my dad, and he beat me like a rented mule. He just did. If the nuns beat me, the priest beat me, and he came home from out of town, then he beat me just because the nuns and the priests and the school education system was always right. And now there's no discipline. I was at another interview a while back, and young kids like this. First thing I noticed when I walked in, young kids, and they're all, nobody was on time, the engineer wasn't there, this, that, and nobody got mad. Nobody.
My son says, do I go crazy when people are late? I go fucking crazy.
Yeah. But they didn't get yelled at. No, everybody just said, hey, dude. Bro. That's the word they
Bro.
use. And I said, what the fuck does that mean, bro? I don't know. And I said, and so finally we wound up getting started 45 minutes late. 45 fucking minutes late.
You have no idea. It's like my pet peeve. I
Yeah,
go fucking
and the
bananas.
kids just thought it was all cool.
Yeah.
It was all
Crazy.
cool, and it's not cool.
You know what I used to say? So you have your language paths when you speak. You say a word, it just comes back. I always say, these kids that I teach a system of sales called the straight line, right? And I used to say when I invented it, these kids would come to me and they were from families where they were never told by their parents they were capable of greatness. And going further, even the greatness they had in them naturally has been almost conditioned at them, beaten out of them from day they were born. First from their parents, then by their school teachers, by the media, their own friends. By the time they came into my boardroom at 18, they were like conditioned to be just average, to survive, not to thrive, right? Why do you think, though? I mean, like, for me, it's one thing I really struggle with is because I really try to instill like success-oriented thinking and positive mental fortitude in my kids. Why do you think? You think they just don't know any better? You think they think it's right?
Well, you said that it was beat into they should have been beaten, but they
They
weren't beaten.
conditioned into
they
them.
conditioned,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And like Pavlov's dog. I mean, you jolt them and they react. But the kids now don't want to be jolted. They don't want to be jolted, and they feel entitled. And I say, entitled to what? You haven't done a goddamn thing.